When I was a kid, I hated exercise. You know how in every school there's always that one kid who will do absolutely anything to get out of PE class? In my school, I was that kid. Now my reasons for wanting to avoid PE weren't just because I was terrible at sport, although obviously if I'd actually been I might have improved somewhat. But no, my reasons for wanting to get out of PE class had more to do with the uniform. In particular, the shorts. Do you remember those hideous short shorts they used to make us wear in the 80s? The ones with the slit that went right up the side? The slit that went so far up all the boys could see your baggy granny undies with all the little hearts and stuff. No, that was just me. Every time I tried to pull my undies up so they wouldn't show, and every time by the end of the lesson they'd have worked their way down again to puff out the bottom of my shorts. Every time. The other kids would laugh and make fun of me. It didn't take me long to decide that if this was exercise, then exercise wasn't for me. It's funny when you think about it, how such a small thing can have such a big impact on the way your life turns out. You see, over the years, that belief stuck with me. And I kept on avoiding all forms of exercise, even when I got old enough to buy my own undies. By my late 20s I realised that I was headed for disaster. I could barely walk up the hill to the letterbox to get the mail without getting out of breath. I needed to do something. So in desperation I signed up for a 5-week fitness bootcamp. But I already knew it was going to be a disaster. In fact, I told the trainer as much. I thought it was only fair to let him know what he was getting himself in for. I hated exercise. I was terrible at sport. I wasn't cut out to be athletic. Who told you? He said. Who told you you're not athletic? I did. And when did you decide this? When I was about 10? Do you always let 10-year-olds make your life decisions for you? I had to admit my trainer was right. Actually, it turns out he was right about a lot of things. See, after that 5 weeks was up, I signed up for another 5 weeks. And then another. I was really starting to see a bit of a difference to my health. I'd lost quite a bit of weight, I'd gained a bit of muscle, and most importantly, I'd even built up the confidence to wear short shorts again. It was time, I decided. I was ready. I was going to run a marathon. But not just any old marathon, oh no. I decided I was going to run a marathon on the Great Wall of China. I know what you're thinking, you think I'm nuts. So did all my friends and family. That's how I knew I'd made the right decision. The Great Wall Marathon is widely regarded as one of the toughest courses in the world. In 30-degree sweltering heat, you climb up and over a really steep section of the wall where there are no fewer than 5,164 steps, some of them up to your knees. That's roughly equal to climbing the Sky Tower 4 times. And it's just the first 10k of the course. See, after you come down off the wall, you spend 20k running through rural streets and paddocks where every kid in China is lined up along the side of the road waiting to give you a high five on the way past. And once you're completely and utterly exhausted, the final 10k is a repeat of the first 10k in reverse. All 5,164 steps of it. Sounds like fun, right? Finishing that marathon was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The heat was intense. The ground was uneven. The dust made it difficult to breathe. At 32 kilometres, I sat crumpled unceremoniously on the steps of one of mankind's oldest and greatest artifacts, fighting back the tears because I was just so exhausted and so far out of my comfort zone. I couldn't face the trip back up and over the wall. What am I even doing here? I thought to myself. I'm not a marathon runner. My 10-year-old self was right. Who was I even kidding? But I wasn't going to let myself be dictated to by a 10-year-old, even one as intelligent and downright attractive as me. So what if I wore my undies on the outside when I was a kid? Do you know who else wears their undies on the outside? decided that my superhero power for the day was going to be stair climbing. I picked myself up, brushed myself off, and headed back towards the massive stone staircase winding up into the distance. The world record for a women's marathon is 2 hours and 15 minutes. The women's course record on the Great Wall Marathon is almost double that at just over 4 hours. As a first-time marathoner, it took me 7 hours and 36 minutes to get across that finish line. When I looked at the course a few months later on Google Earth, I realised that the top of that hill, the hardest part of the race, was both geographically and metaphorically the furthest I'd ever been from home before. For a little kid with baggy granny undies, I've come a long way. My 10-year-old self would be shocked to discover that I'm on here encouraging people like you to run your first ever half marathon. But that's what Run 21's all about, and that's my challenge to you. If I can do it, anybody can. So are you ready to show your 10-year-old self who's in charge?